Welcome back to the shop. Let's see what's coming up next here. I've got an Echo CS590 Timberwolf with a running issue. Oh, this is interesting. A Makita cutoff saw that doesn't run right, and another Makita cutoff saw that doesn't run right. An Echo CS490 with a broken fuel tank. GTA 26, not sure why that's here. And there is an 011 Stihl, a 271, an 041. I'm not sure what's up with these three yet. And there's a Stihl MS 210 that won't start. Here's some saws that are ready for pickup. 180C. There's that Johnson 2163. You guys seen this in a previous video. And here we've got a 661, a 170, and a 362 that were all here for service. And here's a bit of a collection. There's a 201 top handle. There's an 026 waiting for a rebuild. A 261, a 261. There's an 044 red lever. A Makita, a Dolmar, an Echo CS370, a couple Huskies. There is an MS170, a 170, an MS250, something in a bag. There's an MS230 dropped off in a bag. There's an 034. There's the mystery saw. Somebody was asking me where it went. There it is. There's a Husky in a box. 041, a bunch of 038s. There's an old partner. There's that old Poulan. There's an 038, 026, 028, a 170, an 024, an 026, 170, an 084, 038. That little squirt. There's an 026, but with a hedge clipper attachment on it. There's a 241. There's another 026. Oh yeah, my vacuum is a Stihl. Here's a couple trimmers in for service. An FS550. And what is this guy? That's a Stihl FS353 AV. Geez, that looks like a chainsaw. I might work on that. Look at the shaft on that. Here's a bunch of trimmers here for service. FS56, 56, FS38. There's an Echo. There is an FS94, FS56, FS56C with the handlebars. There's an FS45. There's a Maruyama. There is a Stihl FS80. There's an FS38. A John Deere trimmer of some sort. A trimmer in parts. There's a pole saw. New Stihl zero turns for sale. 52 inchers and 61 inchers. And the service lineup for tomorrow, we've got a Simplicity tractor. We've got a Husky tractor. We've got a broken mower deck off a Columbia zero turn. Got a bunch of push mowers. Looks like a Champion tiller. Snow blowers. Columbia tractor, Cub Cadet tractor. Cub Cadets, John Deere's, Craftsman's. There's an old Craftsman. Cub Cadet that parts fell off of. Troy built. There's a Honda water pump. This Toro looks like it's well taken care of. I'm just kidding. I'm too sarcastic. What's he doing? Taking this thing racing? Back tires are tilted inwards. Looks like he's been mowing a cow pasture with it. And let's take a peek behind the fence. That's a load lifter. And there's some push mowers, Yardworks tractor, a couple Craftsmans, a couple Cub Cadets, a Columbia, a Toro, another Craftsman. As you can see, we have our work cut out for us. Today we're going to look at one of my saws, the Stihl 034. This saw has a very interesting story. Get on my workbench. Hi there. Welcome back to my workbench. My name is Erica, and I am so happy that you're here today. Today on my workbench, we have a Stihl 034. I bought this chainsaw off of Facebook Marketplace. The ad said that it runs well, but it doesn't have a bar, a chain, or a clutch cover. So I met someone in the parking lot of the beer store. I gave him $50. He gave me an 034. And then as I was about to leave, he said, "Oh, by the way, the saw was locked up. I threw a new ring in it. You should be good to go." So we're going to find out what $50 buys you on Facebook Marketplace. Come along with me. Well, here we are with a Stihl 034 Super. Made in Virginia Beach, USA. So I found this saw on Facebook Marketplace, and the guy said, "Meet me at the beer store and bring $50." So here we are. We'll take a quick walk around on it. Look for anything broken, missing, out of place. It came with no bar, no chain, no clutch cover. I didn't notice right at the time, but I see the bar studs are missing. The felling spike is being held on by a piece of farmer's wire. That must have worked well. The plastics all look to be in pretty good shape. This saw does have a metal handle. Sometimes these handles can get bent, and that will cause the saw to twist a bit. It'll cause it to sit sometimes not properly on the table. It can cause tears on the intake boot and other things, AV mounts. This saw looks to be pretty straight. The gaps all line up nice. It just looks like a nice little straight saw. So as I was about to walk away with this, he said, "Oh, by the way, the saw was locked up. I threw a new ring in it, and it should be good to go for another 1,000 miles. As far as I know, this has 2 rings in it." let's get to it. So he says this thing runs and that it's ready to go cut wood. Well, it needs a little bit of attention to go cut wood. But let's see if there's any fuel in it. And if there isn't, we'll put some in it and we'll step outside with it. Where's my flashlight? What is this? The shop's only flashlight? I need to put a string on it and tie it to the table. Yeah, there is some fuel in there. Just dump it out and take a peek at it. Okay, we got a clean cup. See what's in this thing for fuel. I don't see any water in it. There is a bit of dirt. It smells fresh. I'll just put it back in and we'll step outside with it. I'm just gonna have a look in that tank. Fuel filter, I can see it. I can see the fuel line. Looks like most of the dirt came out in the cup. I'll just leave the bottom little bit out that has the dirt in it. And we'll just check the bar oil. So this chainsaw would require having its bar studs in order to hold its bar oil. Now let me clean that mess up. And not only are we leaking bar oil, we're leaking gas. Okay, well, we're off to a good start. Let's throw a couple bar studs in this. There's our part number. There's our installation tool. That's a tool from Stihl, 5910, 890, 3001. The way this works is there's a ball and spring in this, which is why I can tighten it and then loosen it off a little bit to get it off without loosening the bar stud. Okay, well, it should hold bar oil now. So let's try that again. That's much better. Okay, so we've got fuel, we've got bar oil, new bar studs installed. Let's pop outside with this thing. He says it runs and it's good to go. Let's go find out. Well, there you go. This 034 does run. It was a little bit tough to start. A few times it acted like it wanted to stall. But I wonder if this thing will cut. So we've put a couple bar studs in it. I'm going to find a clutch cover, a bar and chain. We'll take it outside, make a couple cuts with it, and then we're going to go through this thing completely. But before we do anything to it, other than these bar studs, we're just going to see if this $50 saw will cut wood for us. Okay, so I'll go find some parts for this and we'll take it outside. That's one way to hold it on. Well, there, that looks much better. Just putting my bar and chain on this. You hear that? So somebody has put a 325 sprocket on this. And it's supposed to be full 3/8. Well, rather than replace this stuff right now, I'm just going to put a 325 bar and chain on it. That's better. Well, let's head outside with it, see what it does for us. I'll meet you out there.
Well, it's running, it's oiling. I don't really like it. The idle's a little up and down. Might be revving kind of high sometimes. In the cut, it feels fine. That's a good buy. Maybe Erica should go over it.
Well, there we go. This 034 Super does run and cut. The idle is a bit unstable, and the fella I bought it from said the saw was locked up and he replaced one ring. So that is a red flag for me. So I've been looking for an 034 Super to add to my collection, and this could be the one. I'm not going to risk burning this saw up. So we're going to go through this thing completely, look for all of its defects, repair whatever needs repairing. We'll convert it back to full 3/8. We have our work cut out for us. Let's get started.
Can't we just run it and let the diaphragms loosen up? and it's probably good to go.
No. Let's pull the bar and chain back off of this thing and we'll get to work. The clutch cover is hot to the touch. It looks to me like the saw is oiling just fine. The clutch drum is super, super hot. Tyler didn't use her very long out there. That shouldn't be that hot. And I can see it's blue. We'll get the fuel dumped out of this. Well, let's pull that fuel filter out of there. We'll pull it off and pressure test that fuel line, and we'll just work our way through this whole saw. So I think originally this would have had a fuel line in it that's quite short and hard to get out of there, but it looks like it has the long fuel line in it. So maybe it's been replaced. Let's pull it out and take a look at it. That is a Stihl fuel filter. And we'll go to 10 psi. And that holds 10 psi, which tells me the fuel line is not leaking and the carb is not leaking. So that there was a simple test that answers a couple questions for us. So I'll just leave the fuel filter off because we'll end up replacing it anyways. And I'll just put the lid back on for now. So if you have one of these saws at home and you want to go through it, or you're having an issue with it, just follow my steps here. So next we will pull the air filter cover off. So that's quite a dirty air filter. That is the original tillets and carb on there, made in Ireland. That there is your tank vent. Just looking at that fuel line. Okay, let's pull the top cover off. So just one slotted screw and the spark plug wire unplugged to get that top cover off. Let's do a compression test. Got my Echo compression tester. Looks like about 145 pounds. There's nothing wrong with that. I'll grab my camera and we'll take a peek down the hole. It's not the worst I've ever seen. It's not the best I've ever seen. Let's pull the muffler off and have a look in the exhaust port. There's a couple T27s. There's the spark arrestor, and it is clean. Okay, we've got a couple more T27s back in there. Here's a look in through the exhaust port. And there's your rings. There's a score there on the right side of the screen that you can see. But both rings are free. I wonder if the piston and cylinder are Stihl OEM. So we're going to pressure vac test this saw. We're almost there anyways. All we have to do is take the carburetor off. So let's plug this exhaust port up. And while this thing is all plugged up, is a good time for cleaning. This thing needs a cleaning. Some kind of dead bugs in there. That, and those. There, our exhaust is sealed off. The saw does not have a decompression valve to worry about. Now throw our spark plug back in. And now we'll pull that carburetor off. You can see where the throttle rod hooks to the carb there. Just gonna release it. A couple 8 mils. Fuel line. There you go. Carb is off. That is a Stihl fuel line. So I would say that somebody has replaced this at some point. So let's plug up our intake and we'll do a pressure vac test. So this tool is going to plug up the intake and the impulse hole. Couple washers, couple nuts. Those washers just keep the nuts from chewing my tool up. Okay, let's do a pressure vac test. So we are going to pull vacuum first. Looks good to me. Now we'll go over to pressure. see no issues here. That's normal to see when I move the flywheel. It looks like we have a tight little saw here. I'd like to take this thing out for a really good cleanup. So we're gonna pull the recoil off and we'll take this side all apart and we'll take this thing out for cleaning. We'll give that thing a good cleaning up as well. That's pretty oily on the inside. Let's pull this plastic cover off. Send that out for cleaning. Yeah, it's pretty oily in there. So that black line right there, that's where our bar oil goes through. There's something wrong with it. I think it's leaking bar oil into this area, probably causing some slippage. So we're gonna have to probably replace that line. Let's pull the brake spring off. Let's pull the clutch off, and then we'll go out and give this thing a good cleaning. Brake band. Don't put your piston stop in the wrong hole. Okay, this thing is gonna go outside for a super cleanup. Just put this over that port to keep water out of it. There. Spark plugs back in. Meet me outside. Well, this little saw went out and had a bath, probably the first bath it's had in 30 years. And it came out very nice. This is a nice little saw. The more I look at it, the more I like it. A few things to talk about. First is pressure washing. You got to be careful pressure washing your saw. You want to make sure it's sealed up tight. You don't want any water getting inside of it. You don't want to point water right at the crank seals. You just want to be careful and thoughtful in how you do this. So pressure wash your saw at your own risk. Next thing, so now that this is all cleaned up, I can see that we do have a problem with this oil line right there. So we're going to have to replace that oil line, remove the oil pump, and do that. These are a bit tricky to do. It looks like someone tried to. They probably had quite a struggle. Maybe that's why they gave up on this thing. Maybe it wasn't oiling properly. It's hard to say. We know that someone's had this cylinder off and replaced a piston ring. It kind of scares me. So I think we're going to pull that cylinder back off and have a close look at it. So if we're going to go through the trouble of this, and we're going to pull that oil pump off, we're going to be right at the crank seal. Do we leave potentially 30-year-old crank seals in this thing? I don't think we should. I think we should go all the way with this saw. Get it oiling properly, replace both crank seals, pull the cylinder off, take a really good look at it, maybe clean it up. What do you think? Yep, let's go all the way.